The wind sweeps across the Great Plains, whispering through the tall grass like echoes from another time. In the distance, a lone figure rides on horseback, his silhouette framed by the glow of a setting sun. This is not just any warrior, it is Crazy Horse, the enigmatic leader of the Lakota people. A man of few words, but whose actions spoke louder than any battle cry. In the 19th century, as the United States expanded westward, it carried with it a relentless hunger for land, a hunger that devoured native cultures, traditions, and sacred places. But the plains were not silent. Amid the storm of violence and betrayal, one name rose above the chaos: Crazy Horse. He was more than a warrior. He was a keeper of his people's dreams and a protector of the earth that they called home. But who was Crazy Horse really? What drove this quiet and mysterious man to lead one of the most famous resistance movements in history? How did his vision for his people sustain him in the face of impossible odds? And what price did he pay for defying an empire? This is not just the story of a man. It is the story of a fight for survival, a fight for dignity, and a fight for a way of life that was being torn apart. It is the story of Crazy Horse, the spirit of resistance. Beneath the wide-open skies of the Great Plains, in a time when the buffalo roamed freely and the stars told ancient stories, a child was born into the Oglala Lakota tribe around 1840. They called him Čháŋ Óhaŋ, or Curly, for the wild waves of his dark hair. Even as a boy, he carried a presence that set him apart, quiet, observant, and deeply attuned to the rhythms of the natural world. Curly grew up in a world that valued harmony with the earth. The Lakota people, his people, saw the land as more than a resource. It was a sacred partner, a living being that provided them with sustenance, wisdom, and spiritual guidance. As Curly wandered the hills and plains, he often paused to listen. The rustle of wind through the prairie grass, the distant howl of a wolf, or the steady beat of a drum carried on the breeze from a nearby village. These sounds became his teachers, grounding him in the knowledge that everything in the world was connected. As he grew older, he began to show a natural strength and skill as a hunter. He was often found trailing the great buffalo herds, studying their movements and learning to anticipate their every step. The hunt was not just survival. It was a sacred act, a moment to honor the spirits and sustain the tribe. Yet, despite his growing prowess, Curly remained humble, never boasting or seeking recognition. His quiet demeanor earned the respect of elders, who saw in him a depth of wisdom far beyond his years. But Curly's life was not untouched by hardship. He bore witness to the increasing tensions between his people and the encroaching settlers. The trails that cut across the plains, the forts that appeared seemingly overnight, and the loud, smoke-belching trains were signs of a changing world. The Lakota way of life, timeless in harmony with the earth, was under threat. These early experiences shaped Curly's understanding of the world, planting the seeds of his future role as a protector of his people. At the heart of Curly's transformation into Crazy Horse was a vision, a spiritual awakening that occurred when he was just a young man. As the story goes, Curly set out alone into the wilderness, fasting for several days and seeking guidance from the spirits. On the third day, weakened and weary, he was struck by a powerful vision. He saw a warrior unlike any other, riding high above the ground as if carried by the wind. The warrior's face was painted with a red lightning bolt, and his long black hair streamed behind him like smoke. He wore no war bonnet or elaborate regalia, only a single feather tied in his hair and a simple stone necklace. The message of the vision was profound. This was a path of humility, courage, and unbreakable spirit. The warrior moved without fear, protected by his connection to the earth and his steadfast belief in the ways of his ancestors. Curly emerged from the wilderness a changed person. He shared his vision with his father, who recognized its significance. From that day forward, Curly was no more. He was Tļašúŋke Witkó, Crazy Horse. The name was not a reflection of madness, but of a wild, untamable spirit, one that would defy even the most formidable challenges. Crazy Horse's vision became the foundation of his life. He carried the warrior's lessons with him, adopting a code of humility, bravery, and selflessness. Unlike many warriors of his time, Crazy Horse did not seek personal glory. He rarely spoke of his deeds, even after great victories. His focus was always on the survival and well-being of his people. When others adorned themselves with elaborate war paint and feathers, Crazy Horse remained simple, his appearance a reflection of his belief that true strength came from within. As he grew into adulthood, Crazy Horse became known for his fearlessness in battle. But his leadership extended far beyond the battlefield. He was a protector, a guide, and a symbol of hope for a people facing unprecedented challenges. The arrival of settlers, the construction of railroads, and the breaking of treaties all signaled a dark time for the Lakota. For Crazy Horse, these events were not just threats to land, they were threats to the soul of his people. Yet, even in the face of such upheaval, Crazy Horse remained steadfast. His vision had shown him the path, and he would walk it until the end. To his people, he was more than a man. He was a living embodiment of resistance, a flame that refused to be extinguished. And so, the boy who once wandered alone beneath the stars now stood at the forefront of a fight for survival, a symbol of strength for a nation under siege. The late 19th century was a time of transformation and devastation for the Lakota and other Plains tribes. The United States government, fueled by the doctrine of manifest destiny, relentlessly pushed westward. Treaties were signed, promises made, and time and again, those promises were broken. For Crazy Horse and his people, the encroachment wasn't just an invasion of their lands, it was an attack on their identity, their way of life, and the sacred connection they shared with the earth. One of the earliest signs of betrayal came after the signing of the Fort Laramie Treaty in 1868. This agreement had promised the Lakota people sovereignty over the Black Hills, a region they called Pahasapa, believed to be the heart of their world. But when gold was discovered in the Black Hills just a few years later, prospectors poured in, and the treaty was swiftly ignored. Soldiers followed the settlers, building forts and laying down the foundations of towns. What had once been sacred ground became contested territory. For Crazy Horse, these incursions demanded action. His leadership emerged not from a thirst for power, but from an unwavering commitment to protect his people and their lands. While others debated compromise, Crazy Horse saw no room for negotiation. To him, the land was not something to be sold or ceded. It was a gift from the Creator, one that could not be owned or divided. His resistance was as much spiritual as it was physical. The 1870s marked a turning point. Tensions between the U.S. government and the Lakota came to a head as the Plains tribes began uniting under leaders like Sitting Bull, Red Cloud, and Crazy Horse. These alliances were rare but powerful, forged by the shared goal of survival. Crazy Horse's quiet determination and tactical brilliance made him a natural leader, inspiring warriors to stand beside him in battle after battle. One of his earliest victories came in 1873 at the Battle of the Tongue River, where Crazy Horse led a small band of warriors against a larger force of U.S. soldiers. Using the terrain to his advantage, he demonstrated the guerrilla tactics that would later define his military strategy: fast, unpredictable, and devastatingly effective. These tactics, rooted in the deep knowledge of the land and its rhythms, turned even small skirmishes into symbolic victories for his people. But the greatest challenge lay ahead. By 1876, the U.S. government, frustrated by the resistance of the Plains tribes, launched an aggressive campaign to force them onto reservations. Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull, and other leaders rallied their people, creating a coalition of Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors. Together, they faced an enemy far larger and better equipped. On the banks of the Little Bighorn River, history was made. The Battle of the Little Bighorn, known to the Lakota as the Battle of the Greasy Grass, became a defining moment in the fight for survival. Crazy Horse played a pivotal role, leading a fearless charge that broke the ranks of Custer's 7th Cavalry. His warriors moved like shadows, striking and retreating in waves, overwhelming the soldiers with their speed and precision. The battle was a resounding victory for the Plains tribes, a moment of triumph that echoed across the Great Plains. But Crazy Horse knew it was only temporary. The U.S. government's response would be swift and merciless, and the battle's aftermath brought not hope, but despair. For every victory, the Lakota paid a steep price. Starvation loomed as the buffalo herds dwindled, driven to near extinction by settlers and soldiers. Families were torn apart as more and more were forced onto reservations. Despite the mounting challenges, Crazy Horse refused to surrender. He continued to fight, not just with weapons, but with his unyielding spirit. To his people, he was more than a warrior. He was a beacon of hope, a reminder of what it meant to stand tall in the face of impossible odds. June 25, 1876. The sun hangs high over the Great Plains, its heat shimmering in the air. Along the banks of the Little Bighorn River, thousands of Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho have gathered. It is a rare moment of unity as families celebrate the season of renewal. Children play along the water, elders share stories, and warriors prepare for the unknown. Among them stands Crazy Horse, silent and resolute, his painted face a reflection of his spirit, unbroken, untamed. The peaceful scene is shattered by the sound of gunfire in the distance. Scouts rush into the camp, shouting warnings, soldiers are coming. It is the 7th Cavalry, led by Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer, a man whose ambition blinds him to the strength of his enemy. Custer believes his force of over 600 men can subdue the encampment. What he does not realize is that he is vastly outnumbered. There are nearly 2,000 warriors ready to defend their people. Crazy Horse moves swiftly, rallying his warriors and painting his body with symbols of protection. A red lightning bolt slashes across his face, a symbol of the vision that guides him. With Sitting Bull leading a spiritual defense through prayer and ceremony, Crazy Horse takes command on the battlefield. His tactics are bold, almost reckless, but they are grounded in a deep understanding of the land and its rhythms. As the cavalry advances, Crazy Horse leads a counterattack. His warriors move like the wind, striking quickly and retreating, their movements unpredictable and unnerving. The Lakota and Cheyenne encircle Custer's forces, cutting off their escape routes. Amid the chaos, Crazy Horse rides at the forefront, his horse leaping through clouds of dust and smoke. The battle rages for hours, the ground trembling beneath the hooves of hundreds of horses. Custer's men are overwhelmed by the sheer force and determination of the warriors. Some try to flee, but the Lakota and Cheyenne give no quarter. By the time the sun dips below the horizon, the battle is over. Custer and over 200 of his men lie dead, their bodies scattered across the hills. The Lakota call it the Battle of the Greasy Grass, a victory won with unity, bravery, and the guidance of their ancestors. For Crazy Horse and his people, the triumph is bittersweet. They have defended their way of life, but they know the U.S. government will not rest. The victory at Little Bighorn is a moment of defiance, a fleeting reprieve in a war that seems impossible to win. Crazy Horse does not celebrate. He gathers his warriors and reminds them of their purpose, not glory, but survival. We do not fight to kill, he tells them. We fight to live. The news of Custer's defeat spreads quickly, shocking the United States. For the Lakota, it is a testament to the power of unity and the unbreakable spirit of their people. But the government's response is swift and ruthless. Reinforcements pour into the plains, their mission clear. Crush the resistance at any cost. Even in victory, Crazy Horse understands the weight of what lies ahead. The buffalo herds are dwindling, the children are hungry, and the promise of peace seems further away than ever. But for now, in this moment, he stands as a symbol of hope, a warrior who has proven that even the mightiest empires can be challenged by the strength of the human spirit. By 1877, the tide had turned. The United States government, humiliated by the defeat at the Battle of the Little Bighorn, escalated its efforts to crush the resistance. Soldiers flooded the plains, and the buffalo, the lifeblood of the Lakota people, had been hunted nearly to extinction. Starvation and despair began to creep into the camps. For Crazy Horse and his people, the fight for survival grew more desperate with each passing day. Even as hope dwindled, Crazy Horse remained steadfast. He refused to surrender to the U.S. Army's demands and clung to the vision that had guided him since his youth. To his followers, he was still the symbol of resistance, a leader who carried the weight of his people's dreams. But the strain was immense, and fractures began to appear within the Lakota ranks. Rivalries and divisions, stoked by the pressures of war and survival, began to surface. Red Cloud, a prominent Lakota leader who had already settled on a reservation, urged Crazy Horse to follow suit. The U.S. Army exploited these tensions, spreading rumors that Crazy Horse planned to lead a rebellion not just against the Americans, but against his own people. These lies sowed mistrust and fear, even among those who had once stood beside him in battle. By the spring of 1877, Crazy Horse had no choice but to surrender. His people were starving, and the promise of peace, however hollow, offered the only chance of survival. On May 6, 1877, he rode into Fort Robinson with a small band of followers, laying down his weapons, but not his dignity. Even in defeat, he carried himself with quiet strength, refusing to wear the military uniform offered to him as a sign of submission. But peace was fleeting. Crazy Horse's refusal to compromise his beliefs and his defiance of U.S. authorities made him a target. He insisted on returning to the Powder River country, a move the Army deemed unacceptable. His every action was scrutinized, his every word twisted into evidence of rebellion. The betrayal came from within. A group of Lakota scouts working for the U.S. Army lured Crazy Horse back to Fort Robinson under false pretenses, promising a chance to meet with military officials. Instead, he was taken prisoner. On the evening of September 5, 1877, Crazy Horse was led to the fort's guardhouse. When he realized he had been deceived, he resisted, struggling to free himself. In the chaos, a soldier drove a bayonet into Crazy Horse's side. He fell, mortally wounded, but even in his final moments, he refused to cry out. His parents, summoned to his side, stayed with him through the night as his life slipped away. The man who had led his people with unshakable courage died as he had lived, with quiet dignity and an unbreakable spirit. Crazy Horse's death sent shockwaves through the Lakota nation. For his people, it was more than the loss of a leader. It was the loss of a symbol, a reminder of what they had once been and what they could be again. Yet his spirit endured, carried forward in the stories told around campfires, in the songs sung by his descendants, and in the hearts of those who continue to fight for justice and sovereignty. He left no photographs, no writings, no monuments built in his lifetime. But perhaps that is fitting. Crazy Horse was not a man of words or vanity. He was a man of action, a man whose legacy lives not in stone, but in the spirit of resistance he inspired. As his people would later say, his body is gone, but his spirit rides on. The story of Crazy Horse did not end with his death. It grew larger, transcending the man and becoming a symbol for resilience, defiance, and the enduring spirit of the Lakota people. While he left no photographs, no diary, and no physical monument in his lifetime, his legacy was etched in the hearts of his people and in the land he fought to protect. For the Lakota, Crazy Horse was more than a warrior. He was a reminder of their strength, their unity, and their unbreakable connection to the earth. Around campfires and in ceremonies, his story was told and retold, a tale of bravery and sacrifice, of standing tall against overwhelming odds. His vision, shaped by humility and a deep sense of purpose, became a guiding light for generations. His memory continues to live on in profound ways. In South Dakota's Black Hills, where the U.S. government violated the Fort Laramie Treaty by taking sacred Lakota lands, a colossal mountain carving is being shaped to honor Crazy Horse. The Crazy Horse Memorial, started in 1948, remains unfinished to this day, but its towering presence speaks volumes. It is a tribute not just to one man, but to the spirit of a people who refuse to be forgotten. Yet, Crazy Horse's legacy is not confined to monuments or stories. It is woven into the ongoing struggles of Native American communities across the United States. His resistance to injustice echoes in the fight for sovereignty, cultural preservation, and the reclamation of ancestral lands. Every protest, every victory, every moment of resilience carries a piece of his spirit. His vision of unity also resonates far beyond the Lakota nation. Crazy Horse reminds us that true leadership is not about personal glory, but about service to one's community. His humility, his refusal to seek fame or recognition, and his steadfast dedication to his people offer lessons that are timeless and universal. As the Lakota people say, his body is gone, but his spirit rides on. Crazy Horse continues to inspire, a beacon for those who seek courage in the face of adversity, and a reminder that even against the greatest odds, resistance can shape history. While he left no photographs, no diary, and no physical monument in his lifetime, his legacy was etched in the hearts of his people and in the land he fought to protect. For the Lakota, Crazy Horse was more than a warrior. He was a reminder of their strength, their unity, and their unbreakable connection to the earth. Around campfires and in ceremonies, his story was told and retold, a tale of bravery and sacrifice, of standing tall against overwhelming odds. His vision, shaped by humility and a deep sense of purpose, became a guiding light for generations. His memory continues to live on in profound ways. In South Dakota's Black Hills, where the U.S. government violated the Fort Laramie Treaty by taking sacred Lakota lands, a colossal mountain carving is being shaped to honor Crazy Horse. The Crazy Horse Memorial, started in 1948, remains unfinished to this day, but its towering presence speaks volumes. It is a tribute not just to one man, but to the spirit of a people who refuse to be forgotten. Yet, Crazy Horse's legacy is not confined to monuments or stories. It is woven into the ongoing struggles of Native American communities across the United States. His resistance to injustice echoes in the fight for sovereignty, cultural preservation, and the reclamation of ancestral lands. Every protest, every victory, every moment of resilience carries a piece of his spirit. His vision of unity also resonates far beyond the Lakota nation. Crazy Horse reminds us that true leadership is not about personal glory, but about service to one's community. His humility, his refusal to seek fame or recognition, and his steadfast dedication to his people offer lessons that are timeless and universal. In his final moments, Crazy Horse's voice may have been silenced, but his message remains as powerful as ever, that the fight for justice, dignity, and the right to live freely is a battle worth waging, no matter the cost. For the Lakota, for all indigenous peoples, and for anyone who has ever fought against oppression, his life is a call to remember that even in the darkest times, the human spirit is capable of incredible strength. As the Lakota people say, his body is gone, but his spirit rides on. Crazy Horse continues to inspire, a beacon for those who seek courage in the face of adversity, and a reminder that even against the greatest odds, resistance can shape history.